Now that our basic story structure is in place, we can add more visual interest by adding some well-placed transitions and effects. The timeline we'll be working on is labeled Lesson 10 in the Media Pool, so double-click to open it if you plan on following along. To make sure our layout looks the same, choose the trimming preset you saved in the previous lesson. Until now, all our transitions from one clip to another have been straight cuts, but often a dissolve transition can soften a cut or convey the passage of time. Move the playhead over the first set of B-roll clips and zoom in. We want these three establishing shots to slowly blend into one another. Transitions are created from the invisible handle media that goes beyond a clip's in and out point. Here's a quick way to find out if your clips have handles. Press T to call up the trim tool. Click and hold on the first clip. The green bars at each end of the clip let us know that there's sufficient handle media, but more importantly, the white outline that visualizes the handles extends well beyond the boundaries of the clip. However, if we click and hold on the next clip, we not only see red bars at each end of the clip, but there are no white outlines. This clip has no media handles. If you do the same for the third clip, this one has media handles like the first clip. Let's try adding a transition. Press A to switch back to the Select tool, then select the edit point between the first and second clip. From the timeline menu, choose Add Transition. A window will appear warning you that some of the clips do not have sufficient handles. Well, we already know that, but what to do about it is the question. Obviously, you can cancel the operation or skip these particular clips. However, you can still force a transition by clicking the Trim Clips button. Since the transition will be 1 second by default, the clip that does not have enough handles will need to be trimmed by half a second to create the overlap. The only problem is every clip to the right of the transition will be rippled, shortening the overall duration of your timeline by half a second. If this doesn't pose a problem for you, click Trim Clips. Let's play that back. There's another way to deal with this issue that does not involve trimming your clips. Click on the inside of the cut point so that you're only selecting the end of the bus clip. The key here is to not select the Texaco sign clip. Now press Command-T or Control-T on Windows to add the transition. This time, the transition ends at the cut point and is only using available media from the clip itself to create the overlap. In the first operation, the transition is centered on the cut, and in the second instance, the transition ends on the cut. Let's play those back. To change the transition duration, drag its edge. A tooltip will report the transition's duration as you drag. Let's make the second transition much longer and see how that looks. Each transition has several adjustments you can make to alter its appearance. Double-click the transition to open it in the Transitions panel of the inspector. Here you can alter its duration, alignment, and a number of other parameters. Let's change the style to film so the transition mimics the look of a film optical fade. Using the Ease menu, you can choose the level of smoothness in and out of the transition. Choose In and Out to have the transition ease on both sides. After customizing your transition, you can save it for future use in other projects. In the timeline, right-click on the transition you customized and choose Create Transition Preset. In the window that appears, give your preset a name. I'll name this one Film Cross Dissolve and click OK. To locate your saved transition, open the Effects library, then click on the Video Transitions category. Scroll down to the User section and you'll see your saved preset. If you like this transition enough, you can right-click on it and choose Set as Standard Transition. So the next time you use the shortcut, Command-T on a Mac or Control-T on Windows, this transition will be used as the default. An entire library of video and audio transitions, titles, generators, and effects can be found in this area Resolve calls the Toolbox. If you look in the Video Transitions list, there are quite a few transitions. If you hover scrub over any transition in the list, you'll get a preview in the Timeline Viewer. Any of them can be applied by dragging and dropping them onto an edit point. For fun, let's drag out the center wipe transition and drop it onto the outgoing cut point of the bus stop. Notice that Resolve allows me to orient the transition relative to the cut point. I can make it centered on the cut, have it start at the cut, or end at the cut. I'll drop it on the center. In order to see the changes you make to the transition, park the playhead over it. Then in the inspector, increase the border width, and enable feather to soften the edges. Let's take a look.
For reasons inexplicable.
To replace a transition, just add another one out of the library and drop it on the transition.
For reasons inexplicable.
In most cases, however, you'll want to just stick with dissolves. In fact, there's one dissolve you may turn to quite frequently to deal with jump cuts. Scroll over to the gap on V2 between the steering clip and Family Picnic. If you look at the interview, there's a cut we made in an earlier lesson that created a jump cut. In order to give the cut more context when playing back, select the steering clip and press D to disable it. Play over the cut.
On Interstate 95 and end up here. They stop, they get out.
To make this edit appear as if we made no cut at all, drag the smooth cut transition out of the effects library onto the cut point. The smooth cut transition is a sophisticated transition that warps the two sides of a cut so that it looks like the shot never had a cut in it to begin with. Shorten the transition to 4 frames and play it back to see the repaired jump cut.
They stop.
Wow, that's impressive. I should point out that depending on the nature of the shot and the amount of movement, etc., the smooth cut transition will not always give you the results you expect. Re-enable the B-roll clip. In addition to transitions, the toolbox also includes filter effects you can use to create visual effects or solve common problems. These retro clips look a bit clean for my taste, and I want to grunge them up a bit with some film damage. Select the Open Effects category, then scroll down to the Resolve Texture section. Hover scrub the film damage filter to see how it looks in the viewer, then drag and drop it onto the first B-roll clip. Select the clip, then select the Effects tab to reveal the controls. The filter's name appears at the top. This filter allows you to add vignetting, dirt, and scratches to your clip to simulate old film. For this clip, let's increase the vignetting, add some more dirt, and increase the scratch width slightly. Let's see how that looks.
Would be heading to Las Vegas, and for some unknown reason, they just...
There are a lot of really amazing filters built into Resolve, and I encourage you to experiment with them. If you're using the free version of Resolve, there are some filters that will require you to upgrade to the studio version, but you can still see what they look like. To delete a filter, just click the trash can icon, and to disable a filter without removing it, click the switch next to the filter name. Once you have your effect dialed in, you can copy it and paste it to other clips. With the clip selected, press Command-C or Control-C on Windows, then select the clip or clips you want to paste the effect to. From the Edit menu, choose Paste Attributes. Place a check next to Plugins, then click Apply. The effect and all modifications are pasted to the target clips. When we initially set up our project, we chose an HD working resolution of 1920 by 1080. Resolve is a resolution-independent application, meaning that you can work with any frame size in your project. For example, many of the clips in this project are in the UHD format, or 4 times the size of HD. This means that we still have all that working resolution for scaling and repositioning a clip. Scroll over to the Rusty Cruiser clip. Select it, then reveal the File panel so you can see that this clip is a ProRes proxy clip with a frame size of 3840 by 2160. Because we're working with a UHD clip in an HD timeline, we can scale it as much as 200% without quality loss. In the lower left of the viewer, click the arrow to reveal a menu of options. Choose Transform, and a bounding box with handles appears around the frame. Before you begin dragging on one of them, click the Video tab to reveal the controls. Drag outward on one of the control handles. As you drag, the zoom value parameters update in the inspector. Drag until the value reports roughly 1.5. Using the center handle in the middle of the frame, drag the image over to the right. You can also adjust the zoom or position by dragging right or left in one of the text entry fields. Additional controls allow you to flip or flop the image. Turn off the transform when you're happy with the framing. These controls are also very useful for animating still images and photos. Scroll over to the photo of the plane and select it. Most photos you import will be in the 3:2 or 4:3 aspect ratio, in which case you'll see black bars on the sides of the 16:9 frame. To make the photo fit the frame, click the Video tab, then double-click Retime and Scaling to reveal the controls. Change the scaling to Fill. The photo now fills the HD frame, but excludes the top and bottom of the photo. Then move the playhead about 3/4 into the clip.
As here.
Then set a keyframe for zoom and position by clicking the keyframe diamond to the right of each parameter. When a keyframe is added at the current playhead location, the diamond turns orange. Move the playhead to the beginning of the clip, then use the zoom controls to create a tighter framing, then the position controls to reframe the image. Because we already set zoom and position keyframes later in the clip, Resolve automatically creates keyframes for us at the beginning of the clip. Press the spacebar to play back the animation.
There's no such thing as Area 50.
Okay, that looks pretty good, but the animation is a bit too slow for my taste, and the photo lands in a dead stop. We can address both of these issues on the clip itself. If you look at the bottom of the clip in the timeline, you'll see two icons. Click the one that looks like a keyframe. A keyframe track appears with each keyframe appearing as a white diamond. To speed up the animation, drag the second keyframe toward the first one, then play back.
There's no such thing as Area 50.
Now the animation happens much faster. But the movement still needs to be fixed. Click the icon that looks like an animation path. This will reveal the curve editor. Currently, there are two graphs, a zoom graph and a Y-position graph. Clicking a graph makes it active. Clicking the arrow in the upper left corner will allow you to view other graphs. Make sure all the graphs for zoom and position are checked. Selecting each graph will show you which parameter you'll be adjusting. Make sure the zoom graph is active, then select the second keyframe. Then click the Ease In button. A Bezier handle to the left of the keyframe indicates an ease in motion. Play the clip back.
There's no such thing as...
The photo now eases into a stop, but there's a weird dip in the animation. To deal with this, drag on the Bezier handle to drag it out and up just slightly. Now play back again, and we have a nice smooth animation of our photo.
There's no such thing as Area 50.
Close both editors when you're finished. Let's play over the last section of the interview.
But in terms of its relationship to extraterrestrial activity,
there's an obvious jump cut we need to deal with. Mark the endpoint just before he says, but in terms of its relationship to alien activity,
but in terms of...
and the out point after he says, extraterrestrial activity.
But in terms of its relationship to extraterrestrial activity,
Go back to the media pool, and in the B-roll bin, locate the old building clip, select it, and press Option X to clear any pre-existing in and out points. Then double-click it to load it into the source viewer. In the timeline, disable the destination controls for A1, then press F12 to perform a video-only place on top edit. Park your playhead over the clip and zoom in. If you move your mouse pointer into the clip, you'll see white handles appear on the upper corners of the clip. These are opacity faders. Drag on the fader, and as you do, a tooltip reports the duration of the fade. Let's make this fade 12 frames. Then do the same for the tail of the clip. Play that back to see half-second fades on both ends of the clip.
But in terms of its relationship to extraterrestrial activity,
let's also add a fade on the last interview. Drag out a 12-frame fade out.
Just about everything.
If the fade seems to cut off some of the video, just trim it to give the fade more room. With all this effects work we're doing, you may or may not see them play back smoothly on your computer depending on its speed and other factors. One way to check is to play back a clip that has a number of effects applied and watch the frames per second indicator in the upper left of the timeline viewer.
First, I'll close the media pool, the effects library, then press Shift-Z to fit the timeline to the window. I'll play back this B-roll section.
The number you see is the actual playback frame rate that your computer is achieving. A green dot means you don't have issues with playback. But if you see a red dot, your system is playing your project slower than the actual project frame rate, in which case you need to optimize the playback performance. The good news is, Resolve can automatically cache your complex effects to your disk drives. First, you need to make sure caching is turned on. From the playback menu, choose Render Cache Smart. The Smart Cache works on timeline-specific effects such as transitions, opacity adjustments, and track layered composite modes. Regions that have a red bar over them require caching, and regions that have already been cached have a blue bar over them. There are some additional options in the project settings you need to be aware of. Press Shift-9 and scroll down to the Optimize Media and Render Cache section. Under the hood, Resolve will choose a media resolution for you, but you can force a lower resolution rendering using this menu. By default, Resolve renders optimized and/or cached media in a 10-bit ProRes HQ format, which is more than enough quality for most projects. However, if you're working on a slower machine with less drive space, you may opt to downgrade this optimized or cached media to an 8-bit setting, such as Apple ProRes 422 or Avid DNxHR HQ. Let's leave these at their defaults. When background caching is enabled, effects rendering begins based on the amount of time your computer sits idle. Currently, this is set for 5 seconds, but you can lower the wait time or increase it. If you made any change here, you'll need to save. Since we didn't make any changes, cancel is our only option for closing the window. For this last exercise, we'll make a constant speed change to one of our clips. Speed changes are used for dramatic effect or to adjust the timing of a clip so it better fits the scene. For our project, it's a ladder. Scroll over to the Packard sedan shot and play from there.
Well, according to the government,
the first shot of the sedan has a slow dolly move, but when we cut to the close-up of the car's interior, the speed of the move is much faster, and we need to slow it down so the shots match better. Select the Packard interior clip. Right-click on the clip and choose Change Clip Speed. A window appears with a number of options. In the Speed numeric field, enter 50, then click Change to close the window. Setting this value to 50 means the clip will play at half the timeline frame rate, in this case 12 frames per second. When a clip speed has been altered, a speed change icon appears on the clip. Let's play the clip back.
Well, according to the government,
notice that the speed change has been applied to the full length of the clip.
Well, according to the government,
but the duration of the clip has not changed. You may have noticed that the clip does not play back very smoothly. To change how the clip is processed, select the clip, then in the inspector, click the Video tab, then double-click to reveal the retiming and scaling controls. Under the Retime Process menu, there are a few options. Nearest is the fastest processing option, but it delivers the lowest quality results. Frame Blend is more processor-intensive, but it delivers better-looking results by blending neighboring frames to produce smoother motion. Optical Flow is the most processor-intensive operation, but yields the highest quality results. The results can be really smooth depending on the clip. Optical Flow typically has trouble when two moving elements cross each other while moving in two directions, or if the camera movement is erratic. Let's go with Optical Flow. Because it's a processor-intensive effect, we see a red bar over the clip, but a few seconds later, the clip will cache and we'll see a blue bar. Let's play that back.
Well, according to the government,
wow, that made a huge difference. If you need to stretch or shrink the clip's duration while changing its speed, you'll need to use the retiming controls along with the selection or trim tools. Right-click on the wide shot of the car and choose Retime Controls. The speed change bar appears above the clip. The current speed of the clip appears at the bottom. The speed of the clip and its duration can now be altered by trimming the clip. Press T to call up the Trim tool. Move the pointer over the right edge of the speed change bar. You'll see a double arrow cursor. Drag the speed change bar to the right to slow it down, and to the left to speed it up. As you drag, the Trim tool ensures that all clips to the right of the speed-adjusted clip or rippled later in time to accommodate the clip's new duration. I'll undo that. But what if you don't want to alter the timing of your project, but you still need to create a longer retime clip? For that, switch to the Selection tool by pressing A and drag on the speed bar. As you drag to the right to slow down the speed, thus increasing the clip's duration, any clips to the right of the adjustment get overwritten. So just remember that when you need to retime a clip that's sandwiched between other clips in the timeline. If you need to reset the clip speed, click on the down-facing arrow at the bottom of the clip and choose Reset to 100%. Close the retime editor by clicking the X.
Because we previously overwrote the interior shot, resetting the speed to its default left a gap in the timeline. Just trim the end to fill the gap.
There's one more clip that needs to be speed altered. Scroll over to the steering clip and play back.
Make a right turn on Interstate 95 and end up here.
He says they make a right turn on Interstate 95, but the video shows the driver making a left turn. Right-click on the clip and choose Change Clip Speed. Place a check next to Reverse Speed, then click Change. Let's play back.
They just make a right turn on Interstate 95 and end up here.
Awesome. So in the next lesson, we'll look at how to add some static and animated titles to our project.